Hi, I'm Sian, one of the news editors at Manx Radio, and a consultation on changes to Isle of Man Energy's finances won't impact customers' bills. That clarification has come from the Communications and Utilities Regulatory Authority as it seeks feedback on proposed changes to the cost of debt and working capital allowances for the island's gas supplier. One factor would mean a small increase to the tariff, but the other would mean a reduction, with the two offsetting any impact on the cost to Manx residents. I asked CURA Chief Executive Ivan Kiely about the proposals.
It's concerning two elements of the regulatory framework that we have in place at the moment. Why we're doing it now is that they're basically hangover from the first consultation that put the framework in place, and there were two items that were set but needed more detail. So that's what we're doing now, is putting that detail into place for it. So it doesn't represent a huge change in what's happening. It's basically just clarifying the cost of debt and the working capital, which are both parameters that are set or that feed into the tariff. Now, they're both very minor elements of the tariff. Neither will have a huge kind of influence on the tariff one way or the other. About 90% of the tariff is set by the cost of the gas itself and the actual operating costs of the business, like so the wages and the day-to-day expenses of a business.
So in terms of the effect that these two aspects will have on the tariff, then one would make it go up slightly, one would make it come down slightly. Do they essentially offset then? Is there's not going to be an impact for the consumer?
Yes, as it's proposed at the moment, one, which is the cost of debt, will increase slightly, and that's simply down to the fact that when the framework that we have at the moment was put in place, Isle of Man Energy was in the middle of refinancing its operations, and what we did essentially, we said we're setting it at a particular level that was applicable at the time, and we said we'd revisit it when the refinance had been completed, so that it would be taking into account the most up-to-date information. Now, as we know, interest rates have gone up since this was done in 2022, so that's really the only thing that's increased there is the interest rates. So it's got nothing to do with the amount of debt that's carried. It's got nothing to do with the cost of equity or other parts of the business. It's only the interest rates on the debt that we're visiting now, and that goes up slightly. But as you said, the working capital allowance is actually coming down slightly, or not, well, actually more than slightly. It's from what we're proposing, it's come down quite a lot. But both of them have a relatively minor impact on the tariff. It's like fractions of a penny, but one, as proposed, will put it up and the other puts it down. So there should be no real change to the tariff as a result of these measures. It's more just to make sure everything is done correctly is more the purpose of this consultation.
And are they intrinsically linked then? So if one of these happens, the other will as well?
No, not necessarily. It's more just that they were the two items that were not completely bottomed out in the last consultation process. So it just so happened that they're happening at the same time rather than that they're interlinked. They're actually two separate issues, which is even why in the consultation we've tried to deal with them as two separate issues, not trying to say, well, the two are linked. If one does one, the other has to do something else. That it doesn't work that way. No.
Why is this something that a regulator has to set?
Well, our whole framework is based around trying to make sure that the public gas supplier on the island is financeable, and that essentially that means that the operations can continue into the future. So it means it covers its costs, which is, as I said, the running costs of the business, but also the financing costs, because the investments into the network, like the pipes and the other plant and equipment that's there, that's all funded either through investment or through lending. Now what we've done is we've assumed that there's a 50% split between the two, so that lending will fund half of the cost of the network and equity will form the other half. It doesn't actually have to be that way. We've done it that way to make sure that a company can't over leverage or take out excessive borrowings, because it's not going to actually feed through to the consumer. So the consumer only pays for the network itself. None of the other aspects of a company or a group get tied into it. So that's why we're doing things the way we do. We set the cost of equity and the cost of debt so that we can determine how much it actually costs to finance the network, and that's what the allowed return is made up of. It's that figure of around about 2 million per year return, which is to cover the cost of interest rates and the cost of equity and returns and things like that. That's essentially what we're doing there.
Now, this consultation has been open, I think, for a week or so. You've put out some clarification on it now. Was there a concern that the talk of changes to tariffs essentially has caused some concern for the consumer?
Yeah, we were primarily just concerned that it might be causing some unnecessary anxiety for consumers, and we just want to make sure that there's clarity around what we're actually saying in the consultation and also what that impact will be. And you know, it's kind of it is quite a technical issue. It's with the best will in the world, we know that, you know, regulatory frameworks and things are never going to be the most interesting of topics for most people. So we just wanted to make sure that there was just accurate information out there, and that what we're talking about was clear, and that when we say that something will have, you know, the impact would be that it would increase the tariff, that we're only talking about that one parameter in isolation. Like, so when we're talking about cost of debt would potentially increase the tariff, something else will potentially decrease it, and they're all just part of an overall sum that gets put together to make up what the tariff is, not that it's actually what we're saying is going to happen with the tariffs.
So who is this consultation for? It's not really aimed at the average consumer.
Well, anyone is entitled to reply to these things and to give us their views. I mean, we genuinely do want as many views as we can, but we do appreciate that it's not going to be something that will necessarily be of interest or accessible to the average consumer. It'll be more for the gas company itself, and also maybe some of the bigger consumers who are, you know, large commercial consumers, and the impacts on how tariffs are set might be of more interest to them rather than to you or I as an average consumer.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Little Manx Radio Newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.